Hey everyone! This video today is actually for one of my Tier 4 patrons. So, Tier 4 patrons receive a video made on their topic of choice just for them each month. And this month they chose to do a video on how to blend your own teas. This is a subject that might seem simple, but actually has a lot to it. So I encourage you to take a listen if you are newer to blending teas, or if you feel that some teas you blended in the past weren't quite as delicious as you had hoped. So to start, let's kind of go over the basics of a tea versus a nourishing herbal infusion. So teas, think like yogi tea, teas that you buy in stores, are typically made with mostly aromatic herbs like lavender, sage, chamomile, rose, very like effervescent herbs. And reason being, the brew time is typically 2 to 5 minutes. If you brew aromatic herbs over 5 minutes, they can get very bitter, and that nice floral flavor that was once there is gone and it's just bitter. And now bitter flavors can be good, right? We like to incorporate some bitter flavors, but you don't want like a fully bitter tea that is then just not tasty and you really don't want to drink it. So what I focus mostly on is nourishing herbal infusions. And the difference is nourishing herbal infusions are going to have more like a maximum of 30% aromatic herbs, whereas the herbal teas are mostly aromatic herbs, so maybe 75%. So the idea with nourishing herbal infusions is that you have a much longer steep time that's really allowing you to pull those water-soluble vitamins, minerals, and constituents from the herbs. 2 to 5 minutes is not enough time to pull vitamins and minerals from plants. Now, you're going to get a lot with those aromatic qualities, but not quite as much. So with nourishing herbal infusions, we're focusing on a longer brew time to get more constituents. And because we have that longer brew time, we don't want to overdo it with the aromatic herbs. So the tea that I made the most recently that I really enjoyed, and I'm going to use this as an example because all of my tier 3 and 4 patrons also received this tea over the summer, is the Stomach Mend. It was called Ring of Fire tea in your gift, just a heads up. Now, to me, this is the perfect blend for a nourishing herbal infusion. So the herbs that we typically see in infusions that you're steeping for a long time are going to be those vitamin and mineral rich herbs such as nettle, huge, oatstraw or milky oat tops, alfalfa, horsetail, and I'm probably missing some, but those are the classics, the most popular. So to me, another very popular aromatic quality of herbs is mint family plants. And now we do have some mints that are a little more mellow, and we are kind of bleeding the lines here with this recipe, but that's okay. I think you guys will all get the point. So in this recipe, we've got milky oat tops, catmint, monarda, lemon balm, mountain mint, and shiso. Now, even though these are actually all but milky oats mint family plants, some of them have a lot less aromatic flavor than the others. Now, for example, mountain mint and monarda are going to be my top 2 aromatic herbs. These are incredibly strong in both scent and taste. So I'm going to use the least amount of these. This is going to be my least flavorful but my most mineral rich, followed by lemon balm and shiso. Catmint really blurs the line. It's pretty darn effervescent, but it's also, it doesn't get crazy bitter when you steep it a while. It is a bitter plant, don't get me wrong. This is where I'm saying it bleeds the line a little bit. But what I want you all to do at home and get good at is deciding that on your own. So you're not having to Google aromatic plants, mineral and herb rich plants, ratios, etc. So what I would encourage you to do is think about the vitamins, minerals, and constituents that you want from your tea. And then think about which herbs have that you have at home. Then think about how to flavor that. And for you guys at home, I'm going to let you in on my rule of thumb, which is go for the most mineral-rich herb that you can, or infusion that you can. So like, let's say I love nettle, I want more nettle, I want to make nettle infusions daily, but I can't handle the like minerally green flavor. One of my tricks is adding simply anise seed. I think anise seed can make anything taste better. Same with fennel. So sometimes I'll just take a tiny bit of fennel and anise seed and sprinkle it into an herb tea, or a non-herbaceous herb tea, and that's all I need to get a really good flavor. Of course, you can always use herbs like cinnamon, allspice, clove, cardamom, things that are a little more common in the kitchen. Mints are really easy. Sprinkle a tiny bit of mint in some very mineral-rich herb tea, and you're gonna get plenty of flavor from it. Licorice is another one. Anise, fennel, and licorice are really great at flavoring. And then some people who prefer that more like puckering, tannin-rich herbs, you might be interested in using things like rose hips and hibiscus. Two mineral and vitamin-rich herbs that I'll incorporate more closer to my moon time is raspberry leaf and red clover. And raspberry leaf is full of tannins. It's not super flavorful, but things like hibiscus and rose hip and orange peel really complement that bitter flavor. So let's dive right in before I get too far off track. So I'm gonna start with my least flavorful herb, and that is the milky oat tops. And I'm gonna use mostly this herb, or mostly my non-aromatic herbs. So we've got 2 scoops of that. I'm gonna go for my shiso next. Two scoops of that. Oh, actually, let me go lemon balm next. And I think I'm gonna have to grab my scissors. Alright, I did the same amount of that as our others, which was roughly 2 scoops of each. On to my catmint. And actually, I grabbed my stems bag. So let me grab the right bag for catmint. When I'm gleaning and garbling herbs, I keep my stems separate because they're not as easy to reach for teas. And especially if they're mint family plants, I will set them aside for infusing honeys or burning like incense for some smoke medicine, for some room cleansing. So here's my catmint tops. And I'm going to do 2 scoops of those. Alright, now on to our crazy flavorful herbs. We've got this beautiful Monarda. gorgeous. And here's where we're going to be careful not to overdo it. I'm putting just a couple pinches of these flower heads. Now the mountain mint. That should do it. Now looking at this jar, you can see we've created like those sand things that you layer. We've got like 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6, 1/8, 1/8. It's a very rough estimate from someone who's terrible at math, but I think you guys know what I'm saying. Look how beautiful. I love how all the herbs in this blend are really like light green and ashy. So let's talk about how to know kind of what you're getting from a blend. Generally speaking, you've got those mineral vitamin rich herbs in that category that I talked about earlier. Mint family plants, generally speaking, are going to give us a lot of the same things. They have that bitter flavor, which is going to activate the mucosa, activate the vagus nerve, and, you know, activate everything going on between the gut-brain axis. Wonderful things. They also tend to be really good for opening up air passages and just really strengthening the respiratory system. So having mints in blends is just kind of always a great idea. Then we've got our astringent herbs, which is going to be things like raspberry, rose hips, hibiscus. Think about anything that makes you pucker. Those are all going to be really good for tightening and tonifying. For example, a lot of astringent herbs are in blends both for women postpartum, urinary tract infections, anything that's kind of like you really need to tighten, cleanse, purify, and tonify. And then there are, what's another great category? I guess getting really familiar with tonic herbs. Definitely our vitamin mineral rich category would also be considered tonic herbs. Tonic herbs are herbs that you can take a lot of and you can take regularly over time, and they're not going to worsen anything or cause any sort of dependence. In fact, they're going to really build on each other and strengthen and nourish, truly. So getting familiar with some of your favorite herbs from each of those categories can be really helpful for learning how to blend teas. I think that's all I've got for you guys. I hope this has been helpful. If you are harvesting your own plants for teas, that's kind of a whole separate conversation, but we can kind of dip our toes into which parts of the plants to use. Also, the question fresh versus dried, I get asked a lot, so I'm going to cover those last few things and then I'll cut this short. So, I say cut this short, we're going on 15 minutes. So fresh versus dried is a question that really comes up around springtime. In the spring, we've got all these beautiful fresh green herbs everywhere. They seem to completely carpet the ground across the world, really. Things like violet, spring beauty, creeping Charlie, cleavers, chickweed, so many incredible things. Nettle will start to come out, baby nettles. Those are all perfect herbs for teas, and that's going to be in our tonic herb category. You can absolutely make a tea from those fresh. It's going to taste completely different than making a tea from them dried. Even using things like fresh mint and fresh lemon balm, it's wonderful, but it's very, very different. Dried herbs in teas just have more of a lighter, more mature flavor. Fresh herbs, you're going to taste that chlorophyll. You're going to have a very like fresh green taste, which is something that I acclimated to especially throwing those in fresh foods like pestos a lot. But it is a little different. I really like to incorporate a fresh tea in the springtime at least once a month. I really try to do a lot more than that, but you know, sometimes time just flies by. Because I think it's very important to get the vitamins and minerals from the rainwater and the soil in your area. So think about the fact that when you clip a fresh herb, it's got the waters of your place, of the area it's growing in it still. That is magic. In that water, you're also holding the vitamins and minerals from the soil where that plant is growing. And that's an important thing to keep in mind if you're harvesting in an area that you don't control. For example, roadsides, you probably don't want to make a fresh tea from that. You really want to be careful harvesting from roadsides for any kind of tea, but when that water evaporates, a lot of stuff is evaporating with it. By stuff, I mostly mean hyper-local things. Not so much constituents and vitamins and minerals are evaporating. No, more so whatever was in the water that it was being watered with, and therefore the soil, some of that is going to evaporate, and that can be a good thing too. But if you know that you are on organic soil, yummy compost, really good stuff, then enjoying the vitamins and minerals that exist in that soil can be incredible for you and your body. So I really love having a fully fresh tea once a month to connect me to the soil, to my place. My literal location on this earth. I think it's very grounding. It's a really great practice to have outside with your feet on the ground. And yeah, it's just pretty lovely. But as far as taste preference, I much prefer dried herbs. I just think that their flavor has become more established, more distinguished, and it's not quite as covered up by that chlorophyll flavor. Okay, so parts of the herb. I personally tend to not really mix roots that much with aerial herbs. There's no reason. It's, I think, just something that comes naturally. I have very rooty teas. For example, I love making a roasted dandelion, chicory, burdock, yellow dock tea with things like clove, allspice, cinnamon, black pepper. Whereas, you know, this tea today is all aerial parts, light, fluffy, green aerial parts of plants. You can absolutely mix them. I can't think off the top of my head right now of what's in our immunity blend, but that is definitely a mix of barks, roots, and aerial parts. However, that tea has a mission, right? That tea is to help our immune system. So it's I'm gonna get confusing here, so I'm just gonna stop there. So there's really no rhyme or reason, but intuitively seeking flavor and constituents, I tend to separate the two. For example, we have 6 teas. Immunity is really the only tea where that happens. Most of my teas are aerial parts. If you're making a root tea, like I mentioned a moment ago with the dandelion, chicory, burdock, yellow dock, that's going to be a strong tea, not the kind of thing that you're brewing for a party or you're having a friend over and sharing a cup of tea. Again, that's more of a tea on a mission to help that liver and that kidney and just kind of cleanse things out there a bit. So I think that's it. Please feel free to ask any questions, and thank you so much for listening.